at that emotion.
Around the outside. It's time to bring the action.
Yeah, SMX Insider is back. We are the Jasons, Wygant, and Thomas. And it is over. Jett Lawrence is now the 450 National Motocross Champion in his very first shot at it. The perfect season rolls on. And that has probably been stealing most of the spotlight over the fact that just winning the title is really the goal here. And what impressed me most, JT, for how simple he has made it look this year. The emotion really did pour out when he won this title. I think on the outside, we get a little jaded, like, it's a foregone conclusion. The points, the numbers, he's going to win it. There's really no drama here. No, this was a very, very big deal in the moment.
Well, yeah, and I think for him, you do everything you can to not think about it, right? You just want to get through each weekend, continue the momentum forward, but you're always wondering, could something happen? Could I hurt myself? Could the bike break? There's just always the what if until the what if is taken off the table. And for him, he's only 19, just turned 20, right, this week. So it's hard for him to have the perspective that maybe he will in 10 years, but still, this is a lifelong goal. It's every motocross racer's dream to win a 450 championship, whether it's Supercross or Motocross. So for Jett, this is the culmination of that. And I think it will continue to sink in throughout this week. But it was also great to see someone that young be able to take a moment and let it sink in a little bit, not rush through it, not worry about all the people around him, just sit there, stare at his trophy that he'd won and understand the significance of it. I really appreciated that for him.
Yeah, me too, because we've seen when titles come down to the wire and there's a lot of pressure, that's often when you see the emotion. I think way back to Zach Osborne's championship in 2017 and then Ryan Dungey winning Monster Energy Supercross on a 450 that night. But those were down to the wire moments. Jett had a 100-point lead, but it still meant so much. And I think that really shows just how hard he worked and how big these titles are to get. Now, on the other side, the 250 title kind of flipped the other way. We expected that to be nothing but drama, but Hayden Deegan now has his turn with bike problems, and it looks a lot different in the 250 class.
It does, and it almost feels like a little bit of poetic justice here, right? Hunter Lawrence really dominated the first half of this series and then had two horrific motos in a row where it flipped the series on its head, right? And you could still say that Justin Cooper is owed one here after his high point miss. But I felt like it was just a little bit of redemption for Hunter. I truly believe he's been the best rider throughout this campaign. And for him to be in this dogfight, yes, it was entertaining. It gave us all something to talk about and to watch and raise the entertainment level. But I didn't think it was necessarily reflective of how great he has been throughout all of the 2023. So gives him a little bit of a points cushion. Nothing's over. We still have 4 motos, and I know better than to assume that we're out of the woods, because every single time I try to think, I've got this thing figured out, something then goes haywire. So I'm sure I'll look silly again going into Budds Creek, but I think a little bit of justice was served into the world, and Hunter has the points lead because, again, to the point I already made, I feel like he's been the best guy.
Yes, but it points to when you're in it, like the Lawrence brothers are right now. No one is more aware of how quickly these things can go off the rails than them, because they're living with this pressure. And I think that's part of the reason that Jett was so emotional. Even though it looked like the title was a foregone conclusion, there's no thing guaranteed in sports, and they know that. And I think that leads to some really good emotion and perspective from them after the race. So here's our big interview, you and Will Christian, some great interviews post-race where we get inside the heads of the Lawrences and their big moment.
Well, speaking of and seeing Jett Lawrence, Jett, I have to ask you now, I've been trying to be nice about this. We've gone through all the motions, but the championship's over now. We have to talk about going perfect and your thoughts on it. It's a big deal now. Stu and Ricky are here, and they would say that it's not going to count because you can't go 24-0. I, on the other hand, think if you go 22-0, it counts. What are your thoughts now that the championship pressure's off?
We're definitely going to still work for that. We're going to go to each weekend and try and execute the same. But I have a chance to even one-up those guys. See, they may have 24-0. I still got the SuperMotocross, which is technically, it's motocross, but it's a super. So I can technically get, 25? So if things go right with the last 2 rounds, who knows? I might beat Ricky and James, but we just don't know yet. I'm going to try my best. work my butt off, and then who knows, I might have some bragging rights over Ricky. But maybe James, but Ricky's got 2 of them, so I got to get 2 out.
Hey, they're never going to count that. I just want you to know ahead of time. They're never going to agree with that or give you credit for that. But
I think we might sell it on the golf course with them. I feel like that hits them a little deeper with that. So, but it's fun. They're already talking about. I can see James and Ricky. They already seem nervous a bit.
Hey, you can tell them though. You know, these things didn't go on for them until they were like 22, 23 years old, right? It took them a long time to jump to this level in the 450 class. And I don't think, even for you, understanding now, you don't have the perspective yet. Those of us who have been around this and watched all these guys and raced against them, it's mind-blowing for us, the things that you're doing on a motorcycle. One day you're going to realize how special this is. But just tell us, like, your thoughts during the week. Like, is Hunter blown away sometimes because he seems cool, calm, and collected? But the things you are doing right now, I think even your family has to be surprised at times.
No, it's definitely an unreal thing, and I know I talk a lot of smack with that stuff and Ricky about it, but I mean, even if it ended today or last weekend, I still think for winning so many races that I've won so far is still you have to look at it as an unbelievable thing. To do it at mainly 19, I mean, I've been 20 on for this week so far, so it's an unbelievable thing. You don't really see it often, so I just you got to take in the small things like that, but if we can go perfect season, I mean, that'll be unreal. But if not, I mean, you still got to look at the positives.
Well, it's a great happy birthday so far. It's a really strong start to your 20th year. We're going to throw it to Will Christian, who has your father, Dazzy Lawrence.
That's right, I do indeed. And Dazzy, you couldn't hear Jett then, but you could see him. So you're giving him a little bit of grief about the sunglasses. You're like, come on, Jett, get on with it, finish this up.
Kelly didn't get his looks from me, that's for sure.
I mean, do you get any moments today? You're such a big part of the race team. We talk about it a lot on air. You talked about it to me, how you have to kind of stay in that role to help the boys on track. But these are the moments, right? This is a championship. We haven't finished out the season. There's still the goal, as JT was just talking, of going perfect throughout the season. But do you get those moments today? Could you be Dazzy Dad today? Could you do it?
No, you can't, because the last thing you want is a 20-year-old Jett to start to relax and think, oh, yeah, I've done my job, and then all of a sudden you're muscling a 240-pound bike around a track and he injures himself. So as a dad, no, you're always looking at the end of the goal and going, no, you need to stay focused, mate. You need to. So it's sort of, it's hard, you know. You want to be happy for your son, and you want to congratulate him, which I will, but he still has to remain in the zone and stay focused, you know.
Can you give us a little insight on how birthday celebrations went? Obviously, they had to be fairly limited. It's the middle of the week, but you guys, family celebration for birthday?
We did nothing because he bought himself a Ferrari this year. So, like, he's like, oh, where's my presents? I'm like, you don't get a present, mate. You bought a Ferrari. Bugger off. So, no, he got let down pretty hard. Emzy, like the wife, she's the soft one. She bought him a Ferrari number plate, and she spoiled him like mums do. But no, for me, it was sweet stuff all, I'm afraid.
I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think he's all good. You got a Ferrari.
Fine. Like, you're good, dude. Like, shut up.
Dazzy, thank you so much as always, and a huge congratulations to you and the family. I know this is a big family team effort.
No, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Man, that was great stuff there. Great interview there, JT. Pretty fun to see Jett be able to be lighthearted, after he had some tears after the race and the podium. And interesting from Dazzy, he had some fun with that too, but it's the same mentality I saw from Big James Stewart's dad, Jeannie Carmichael with RC. There is no letting off the gas in this camp. Not for Dazzy, that's for sure.
No, it's going to be interesting to see what Jett does over the last 4 motos, because I think he's going to be able to ride a little bit more carefree. He's not going to have all the championship pressure on him. So if anybody thinks it's going to get easier for the competition, I think it's going to go the other way. I think you're going to see a uncorked Jett where he rides to his potential over the last 4 motos.
Okay, it's time for 30-second board. You see the topics over here on the side of the screen. Well, if Jett does make some history, a lot of people are going to witness it. Unadilla's crowd. We had the drone shots all weekend on the broadcast on NBC. The campground, the parking lot, it was massive. And I feel like this has been a pretty recurring theme. High Point, Washougal, Millville, Southwick, it just goes on and on and on. Places have been packed lately.
They have been, and I think it's just a sign of the times of where the sport is. People are paying more attention than ever. It's been a great summer. Weather's been really agreeable. I don't think we've had a mud race in, 18 months or so for pro motocross. So yeah, I love to see it. I love to see the participation. Even the amateur days before and after these events have been overwhelmingly positive and well attended. So yeah, it's a great time for the sport.
Yeah, the only one not having a great time, that was a bummer there for Hayden Deegan. We thought we had a brewing battle as he was figuring out the track, starting to close back in on Hunter Lawrence. That would have been fun to watch, but his bike let go. But as you said at the top of the show, well, Hunter had the exact same thing happen at Southwick, so turnabout's fair play here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? And it's a brutal blow to the championship fight and all the headlines there. But he's going to bounce back. He's a kid, and I like the comments from his father, Brian Deegan, saying, I get it. It's dirt bike racing. These things happen. They break, and they've happened to our competitors as well. But I can tell you, standing there in the moment right next to Brian, he was heartbroken, right? He and his wife were both heartbroken. They understood what it did to their championship chances. But then an hour later, they were back at the line and they were ready to go fighting again. So it's just a part of the sport, and it's not going to ever change. We're going to see this type of stuff happen now and again.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that point up, because Hayden even said in your interview that he had moved past it. And then I heard people saying, but I saw his body language when he was getting a ride back in that golf cart. He was clearly devastated. Both things can be true. I'm sure the moment that bike shut down, it was tragic in his heart and his soul. But in the big picture, as a rookie, it's not title or bust this year. You can have both perspectives. Maybe it takes an hour or a couple of days to get there, but still a fantastic season for him, and it's not over. But as for Hunter, it couldn't have worked out better, especially because we go back to Washougal. Hayden Deegan was stoking the flames a little bit, saying that maybe it's nerve-wracking for Hunter. He's supposed to be winning these races. Hunter responded quite well on the podium, saying this pressure is not really pressure to him.
I was looking forward to it. You know, everyone was talking about, the pressure this, the pressure that. That's not pressure. I choose to do this. Pressure is when my family couldn't eat. So this is fun, and it's what I love to do. So I was looking forward to the challenge.
Man, that was good stuff right there. That was good. A good way to fire back without even mentioning Deegan's name.
Yeah, that was an incredible comment by Hunter, and I think it caught everybody a little bit off guard. I thought he would say something along the lines of, yes, great, but there's still, 5 motos to go or something like that. But it wasn't. He went much deeper than that. And I think it just gives you a little bit of a glimpse of the perspective that he and his family have, that, yes, this is all great, but the success and the difficulties all have to be taken, in good measure, because it's not the end of the world, good or bad. And I think his comments of, I'm either going to win it or I'm not, right? And then it's a binary thing. So yeah, it shows he's a lot more mature than his age would tell you.
Yeah, well, you and I discussed in our podcast right after Washougal, it's clear that Deegan wants to play mind games. I don't think it's going to work on someone with the perspective of Hunter Lawrence. Other riders, yes, but Hunter's been through too much, and that was the point he made there. So let's update this 250 title battle. At least for the moment, it's Justin Cooper, second in points, 22 down. That's a pretty big lead with 4 motos, but honestly, not the way this season has gone.
Yeah, and anything goes so far, right? And all the things we're sitting here talking about now, it feels like Hayden Deegan's somewhat out of it, and Justin Cooper, with his great motos, still feels like he's out of it, and Hunter's taking back control. I'm sure Bud's Creek will throw a wrench and all that, and we'll be here next week talking about, wow, it's wide open again, right? And that's just the way this series has gone. Every single time it feels like someone's slipping away with this championship. Life has a curveball to throw at them. So I'm just going to be prepared for that. I'm going to assume that this championship's going to go down to the final moto until I'm proven wrong.
Let's give you an update on the playoff standings. This is Super Motocross when we combine Supercross and Motocross together. All year we've had this strangely close duel between RJ Hampshire and Hayden Deegan for second. And the crazy thing is, Deegan loses a ton of points in Moto 1. Not great in Moto 2 with the bad gate pick. But then RJ goes down in Moto 2. So they're still close in points. So that'll be interesting to see maybe the recovery timeline for RJ. And the other thing I've been watching all summer, JT, is these Monster Pro Circuit Kawasaki riders trying to get in. Hammaker's been riding well. But that was devastating for Austin Forkner, though, to not get points again in Moto 1, even though he was riding well all day.
Yeah, he's going to have to really pull out some strong finishes over the last 4. But the good news is his form is there. You watch time qualifying, you watch the second moto. The speed is there for him to make this really interesting, but it's almost a comedy of errors between he and Hammaker and these guys of, do you really want to qualify or not? And of course they do. It just hasn't been so easy, right? And someone like Quentin Fowler would be like, well, if they just get 7th every single moto, and I know you love that dynamic, Weege, if it's easy, you'll just get 7th every single time.
Good luck.
But it's crazy, right? Because if you told me that Austin Forkner went 3:19 at Bud's Creek, I'd be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you average that out, and it may be exactly what he needs. So it's definitely been an interesting storyline. It's not one that we've ever thought about before, but all of these things that have really never mattered. Like, we'd never be thinking about what Austin Forkner's late season results might mean. It might mean everything as far as SMX playoffs go.
Yeah, he is 45th overall in combined points, and he's got to close in on that top 30 now with only 4 motos to go. That hurts, just missing the points in Moto 1. Now we're going to go back to the 450 class, and this is really funny. So it's been so great with Jett Lawrence having this historic season to have Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart with us to talk perfect season because they're the only other riders that have done it. But then we decided to go in another direction this weekend and talk about their rather infamous moment battling in 2005 at Unadilla, where James landed on Ricky. And I asked James about it on Friday when we first unrolled the clip. Ricky wasn't there yet, hadn't gotten there from the airport. And what he said Carmichael would say was exactly what Carmichael said. Now you can hear the exchange with those two on the broadcast.
Here's RC in yellow, you on the green in 05. Oh boy.
But you tell your version.
Well, I mean, that was my version. Look, it was your fault. It was your fault. No, this just honestly
racing.
It's racing. You know, he was trying to block the inside. I was trying to get to the inside, and you know, unfortunately, I think no matter what, I wanted to beat the guy that much, but I wouldn't jump on him. But
yeah, I mean, I think like we've talked about it. You know, I don't think that you anticipated me to block the inside because I knew if I kept my momentum and jumped to the outside, you were just going to get back by me. But you know what? A lot of that was my fault because if you go back to that race, I was leading and I fell down, I think, taking the second lap.
It's funny how time heals all, because I can tell you in 2005, there were some hard feelings, there were some hard comments made, and I don't think they were in agreement about how that was supposed to go or went at all. So I love to see how, you know, cooler heads prevail 18 years later. But yeah, I don't know that was necessarily the feeling going back to those days.
It's full love fest now, I can tell you. I mean, if you told me I was going to be sitting in a TV booth rolling that clip with the two of them next to me, I'd be like, I don't want to be in that room. But no, it's fine. They're buddies now. And yes, like you said, time heals all wounds. Unadilla is known as a European-style track, and a lot of it is because the heritage of this race is in the early days of motocross in America where the European riders were dominant. This is one of the tracks they would come over and race. It has natural terrain, way predating Supercross man-made obstacles. That was really an American thing. And then Unadilla lived up to it. We had all these riders who a lot of Americans had probably never even heard of doing well, starting with Harry Coulis with these two amazing starts.
Yeah, it was. It's been that all summer. You know, riders that have been here all season, like Jose Butron, that are fighting for SMX playoff spots. We're getting this new influx. Riders that most Americans have never heard of, like Anton Gold, right? I know of him because of my travels to Europe and the MXGP series, but he's been here for a few rounds now trying to battle it out for points. Harry Coulis, you mentioned, he's a former MX2 winner. He won Wammel years ago. But these guys are talented riders. They sense an opportunity in the 450 series with a lot of riders out, such as Eli Tomac and others, and they're getting in and making the most of it. For them to come over in this series and to earn points, it just doesn't typically happen. So I'm here for it. It really adds an international flair to the series, and I think it introduces a lot of Americans to riders that they may not otherwise have heard of.
Yeah, Coulis was 6th overall after those two good starts. Tanel Liak, who's been out this forever, but had never raced a national in America, but he's well known, especially from Motocross of Nations, where he's ridden it something like 20 times.
19 times, yeah.
It's unbelievable. That was
38 years old.
Give it a shot. And then also a neat story with Jay Wilson, who is an Australian who lives in Japan to develop bikes and race for Yamaha, showing up on really what is actually Eli Tomac's bike. He was quick to say, I'm not a Tomac fill-in. He didn't want those shoes to try to fill, but he is on Tomac's idled bike. So great to have a couple guys over there like that. And they're just, like you said, part of a big group that's been here all year, especially at Unadilla. Let's go to the SMX schedule. So I got actually to visit ZMAX Dragway at Charlotte the day before I went to Unadilla. They have a literally unlimited supply of dirt there. I can tell you firsthand, there's so much construction in the Charlotte area that there's plenty of dirt, and construction people call them and say, hey, can you hold dirt for us? And they knew they were going to need it at some point. So they're going to build a great track there. And then we'll go to Chicago then next weekend. So that's September 9th. And then we go to Chicago after that. It's going to be really interesting to see how these tracks turn out. A lot different, I think, than what we think we're going to see.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I think this whole dynamic is going to be much different. There's activities that are going to be happening on Friday, which are going to bring, I think, a lot of fan involvement, which we don't get a lot of. You know, typically it's a Saturday-only event as far as spectators go. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a true weekend event. I love the different cities I love the different atmosphere. And to wrap it up at the LA Coliseum, one of the most historic venues on earth, it's just a truly great development for the sport.
We put the map out before. Great trackside camping at Chicago. And again, there will be bikes on track Friday and Saturday. So get your camping spots for that one. Now, speaking of SMX, let's give you the point standings updated there. Chase Sexton pretty much has this sewn up as far as being the number 1 seed going in. But there's a lot of battles going on behind them, including guys jumping in and out, like we saw Colt Nichols and Shane McElrath do. Probably get another race or two out of those guys before it's over. So we'll see how this seeding thing works out. Even, Justin Barcia came back this weekend. So that mixed it up too.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And it's been a fluid situation all year. I always think about the guys on the bubble because the riders that can get in and not have to face that LCQ, I think about riders especially like Jose Butrón. He doesn't really have any Supercross experience, so he needs to get into that top 20. He needs to seed himself because his odds of qualifying out of the LCQ in a type of racing he's never done before, his odds go way, way down. So that's the interesting things. Like Phil Nicoletti's a guy we've had our eye on too. He had a really tough second moto, which put a dent in his odds of getting seeded in. But I love that. Again, we've never had this dynamic before. So a lot of these riders that are typically also rans, maybe they're getting 10th, maybe they're getting 15th. That's going to be the difference between qualifying for the SMX Playoff Championship or not. And I just think it's a great new wrinkle in the entire series overall.
So let's wrap this up with this. You see where it says the moment on the screen. I was quite taken aback when Jett Lawrence went behind the podium with the Edison Die Cup. That is the traveling trophy that has the name of all what is now 450 motocross champions, all the names on it. And you and I have been in conversations with Jett through the years. He's not an all-time trivia statistician. You know, you can throw out old races to Adam Cianciarulo from before he was born, and he can tell you who won. That is not Jett Lawrence's specialty. He kind of just takes life as it comes. So that's what impressed me. He still understands how big it is to have his name join the greats of the sport as a champion. And that was really interesting to see him literally just holding the trophy and staring at it almost in disbelief that he had joined this company.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate. I was standing right outside the tent watching all of this unfold. And there were a few people that came over and said, hey, can you come over with us? Can you, sponsors, this and that? And he just was kind of blocking everything out. And I think he understood that I need to absorb this moment and just sit here and remember this forever, right? And burn it into my memory of what this feels like, the emotion, the accomplishment, because if it never happens again, which I would strongly argue against, but if it never happens again, he'll always remember that time, that quiet time where no one was bothering him. He didn't allow anyone to talk to him. Everybody gave him this opportunity to let it sink in for a little bit and just absorb the opportunity, right? Going from Australia as a child, moving to Europe, moving to the USA, all of the change, and watching his parents struggle, watching Hunter struggle, and for him to rise to the very top of the sport at such a young age, I can't imagine all the emotions that had to be running through him. And a kid that's so jovial, so lighthearted all the time, you could see that this moment weighed on him. And I appreciated that as an adult. I appreciated that he was able to understand how deep and how heavy this moment was and how many people dreamed of this. That for myself, I dreamed of doing something like that. And of course, I was never even close. But if he had not absorbed, and if he had just laughed it off and said, yeah, that's cool, no big deal, it would have bummed me out a little bit. And I really appreciated the fact that he was willing to take a moment and appreciate it.
Okay, welcome back. It's Fowler's Facts now. We bring our staff statistician, Clinton Fowler, in. Obvious topic here is Jett Lawrence winning the championship as a rookie. Maybe we'll discuss perfect seasons more as we get to the final 2 rounds, but he's already won the title. So how rare is this? He talked quite a bit in the press conference about Dylan Ferrandis just did this 2 years ago. So he was inspired by knowing that this is a level that is achievable. So Clinton, how common is this?
It's pretty rare. Man, Jett joined some incredible company here. Obviously, Ricky Carmichael and Ryan Dungey, 2 guys that sit atop the winningest in the category. So JT, I look at this and it kind of hints towards what his potential is. He could catch Dungey at 39 overall wins in 2026 if he keeps this streak going. But what do you think the potential is for a guy like Jett?
Well, I think the sky's the ceiling, really. I think we're still uncovering what Jett is capable of, and that's very scary if your name is literally any name at all. I don't think there's anybody in the sport that shouldn't be very concerned about what Jett Lawrence is doing and where he is headed. I think every weekend he gets a little bit better, a little bit more confident, and I think his skill set's still evolving. You have to remember, he's only 9 or so races into his 450 career, and he already looks like he's this savvy veteran. And all those riders you mentioned that they won in their maybe rookie, premier class season, they were usually much older than Jett is. He won or has won most of the series at 19 years old. And yeah, Ricky wasn't a whole lot older than that, but guys like Dylan Ferrandis, and they were much, much older and much more experienced than what Jett Lawrence is. So good luck to all these guys. I only think he's going to get better from here, and he still hasn't lost a moto as of now.
Yeah, that's right. This might not match up to rookie seasons. It might wrap up to all-time seasons if he can go perfect. But for now, let's just compare it to other rookie campaigns. Dig through some data here, Clinton, of other rookie championships.
Yeah, obviously the 18 moto win streak puts us in that all-time category. But a couple of the other rookie seasons here are pretty impressive and close. Take the Ricky Carmichael season in 2000. He had 9 overall wins and 15 moto wins. So not far off of where Jett's going to finish the season in overall wins. But the one that really sticks out for me, guys, is Ryan Dungey's season in 2010. And he won 10 overalls. He had 19 moto wins. He was fastest in 17 of the 24 motos, and he led 49% of the laps. So impressive season for Dungey in 2010. You compare that to Jett Lawrence this year. He's got 9 overall wins, 2 more rounds, so likely passes Dungey. He's got 1 more moto win to tie Dungey. He's a little bit behind on the fastest laps, but pretty close here in terms of 13 versus 17. So these two seasons really similar. JT, I look at this, there's kind of some more similarities, 2010 to 2023. In 2010, Ryan Villapoto and James Stewart were out. This year, Eli Tomac and Ken Roczen not racing the series. Do you put any asterisks next to the season?
I don't, and I actually think it's been more impressive. I remember that 2010 season very well, and a lot of the time Andrew Short would get out front, pull the whole shot as he did almost all year, and then Ryan Dungey would hunt him down and eventually win pretty easily. But I look at Chase Sexton has been out there. Dylan Ferrandis was your 2021 motocross champion. I think the level of competition is higher, even with the injuries, even missing Eli Tomac and some of the stars of the sport. I think it's been a tougher ask of Jett to be this good against the likes of Dylan Ferrandis and, for a lot of the season, Chase Sexton. So while Dungey's season was incredible, he deserves all the accolades and he really dominated. I think this level of dominance has been more impressive, and I think it indicates where Jett is going to go, right? He has a long way to go to pass Ryan Dungey in the record books, but I think at this point of his career, I think the ceiling may be higher. We get back to that, where could this end up? I like the way this sets up for Jett moving forward.
Yeah, I'm with you, JT. I feel like this is an even higher level, and it's scary for everyone else. Anyway, Clinton, thanks for the data, and who knows, maybe we'll be talking perfect season within 2 weeks.
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we get to see it go down to that last round week.
Okay, that's it for our look back at Unadilla. We now look forward to Budds Creek this weekend. And JT, I think that's your favorite track of all, isn't it?
It is. I love this track. It's my best result ever. Was here, accomplished in 2006. And I'm going to have a smile on my face when I get off the plane. Even though I don't get to ride, there's just something about Budds Creek that I agree with. So I'll be happy to talk about the racing there and join yourself and I believe Ricky Carmichael this weekend. Yeah, we got RC back with us. This track is only about a half hour outside of Washington, D.C., by the way. So if you want to make it a family weekend, not a bad place to do it. It's still summertime. If you want to watch back to the traditional times, we'll have qualifying coverage. That's Race Day Live, presented by motosport.com at 10 o'clock. You can watch on Peacock or the SuperMotocross Video Pass outside of the U.S. And same place to watch the motos, which start at 1 o'clock. 4 straight hours of motos, and we'll have a halftime show in between Motos 1 and Motos 2. So check that out again, Peacock and SuperMotocross Video Pass. That's it for us. We'll see you at Budds Creek. 250 class changes every time we see it. That'll be interesting. And Jett Lawrence, hey, look, I know the pressure's off, JT, but Ferrandis and Sexton, it was no joke. They're providing a challenge here at these last 4 motos. They are, but Jett's going to win.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, Jett's gonna. I give up. There is no more resistance. I have completely capitulated, and Jett is never going to lose ever again.
Yeah, I keep saying he's on pace for infinity wins. Hopefully, Ferrandis and Sexton hear this, and then they get motivated to prove you wrong, and then we'll have really good racing at Buds. We'll see you there, everybody.